I'm Katrina Eaton. I'm the second daughter of Michael Schuetz, who was the 11th sheriff in the Schuetz family. And I'm here with Fran, who is the first wife of Mike and my mother. And I would love to hear some stories from you about your memories of the Schuetz family and maybe some things you see that carry over into our family, or it can be any kind of story that you associate with the Schutzes.
Okay. Um, my first introduction to the Schutz family was when I was dating Mike, and we he came to my house in Wichita, Kansas, for Christmas, and then wanted to go to his house for New Year's. So we drove up there, and that was my first experience of going to Iowa. On the way, there was so much snow that under an underpass on the way it was carved out in an arch so that we could go through with the car. And I thought, oh, this is fantastic, and all the farmland was covered with snow and everything. When I got to his house, his mother and one other of his sisters was there, and Sally was in the bedroom where I was going to sleep, and she was a young girl, and she was kind of shy, and she was looking in the mirror sitting at a vanity, and her hair was in braids. And so I said to her that I used to wear braids when I was a young girl. And so that made us friends forever. That I mean, at the time anyway. And I always remember that I'm sure it's loved birds. And she had a niche in her kitchen that had a little breakfast table, and she would sit there and eat a breakfast roll or toast or whatever and watch the birds. And she loved that. And Dorothy, Mike's sister, who wasn't there at the time, had a cat that his mom was taking care of. Mom was taking care of, and she would chase the birds, and that would upset mom.
Cats and birds don't mix.
Yeah, yeah, she used to get upset. She wished Dorothy would take her cat, and eventually Dorothy did when she got married to Bill. And so that was before Dorothy was married to Bill. So that was my first adventure there. And then while I was still in college, and I was married to, well, no, I was married to Mike in 1969. Is that right?
Yes.
67, 69.
69.
I couldn't even remember. Anyway, and he was in Germany studying architecture. And I sent him over there, gave him the money to go because I was working at a department store chain in Des Moines, Iowa called Yonkers Department Store. And so I went to Sioux City for Easter by myself, and that was
to be with his family,
to be with his mom, and family, so I could have somebody to be with, and that was lovely. And I used to take the children up there sometimes, even if Mike was working or whatever. And Katrina, and Emily, her younger sister, and Molly, the oldest daughter. So there were three girls at that time. Nicholas wasn't born yet, of course. And I remember Molly was just very young, and I took a carriage up there, and I had the carriage bed in the living room, and she was on her back, and she was laughing and kicking, and I was teaching her how to say bottle all the time. And she would chase Jenny Schuetz around. Jenny was a few months older, and Molly would try to copy her and chase her all around the house, but she would fall backwards and hit her head every so often. You could hear clunk, clunk, clunk. I thought, oh my gosh, this kid's going to be brain dead by the time she gets out. But they were had a good time playing together there and between the living room and the dining room. And that was a lot of fun. And I remember Mom Schutz had a bowl of fruit out on the table one time, and Carol was living there while Jim was away,
at school, or
well, no, he had been drafted. I think he maybe had been drafted already. He was on the East Coast or in Minneapolis or whatever, teaching military. So, he didn't have to go over to Vietnam. But she was with Jenny in Sioux City. And Mom had a bowl of fruit. She asked me to arrange it, and I didn't do a very good job. So then Carol came in and rearranged it. I thought, oh well, she's better at that than I am, you know. And so it was there. We had a hard time when we would take Molly, especially, to visit mom because she would cry so much at night. She had colic really badly, and I didn't know how to treat it, and the doctors weren't even sure what colic was. And that was 1972. And so I'd walk with her, and maybe Jim and Joanne, Mike's sister, Joanne, and her husband and oldest child would be in the next bedroom, and I would just walk and walk, or Carol would be there with hers, and several of us would go. And that's another thing. When we would go, many times when we went, you three girls, and Dad and I would go there, or I would just go without him. We would be on the floor. You kids would sleep on the floor in the living room, and so would Uncle Joe's, his brother Joe's kids too, would be there in sleeping bags or in bedding on the floor in the living room.
Yep, I remember her wood and glass bookshelves there, and we'd sit in the rocking chair and pull out kids' books from the cabinet.
Oh yeah, one was one that your dad had, from the time he was very little. I think it was about a pink bunny.
The book?
I think, yeah, there was a pink bunny in it. And he said that was from when he was a child. I had it for a long time. I don't have it anymore. Somebody might have taken it, or something happened to it. But one time, Emily, Mom said, "Look at Emily. She's climbing up my flower bed." She was climbing up the flower bed up next to the steps outside. I go running out and say, "Emily, you can't do that." But, and then you kids always used to play in the backyard. Was kind of a wooded area that just elevated up a bit, from the ground. And you thought that was great fun, pretending you were in the woods. And
I remember that. And I remember going to Grandma's house she always made that homemade Play-Doh with very salty dough, and I used to like to sneak bites of it. But she always had batches of fresh Play-Doh for us to play with, and she had the little dress-up bin in that chest in the entrance hall, games in the basement, and then I was telling Laura earlier, I remember her little powder room upstairs with the little stool that swiveled. I don't know. It might have been in the bathroom, but
it was in the bedroom.
Was it in the bedroom?
Well, maybe.
It might have been.
I don't know. I think that's where Sally was sitting when I first met her.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether it got moved or what.
Stool.
Yeah, exactly. And different people would come and go. It would be, and the neighbor children across the way loved Mom. And, they would come and she would give them snacks. And,
she was always baking and fresh.
This one little boy, I think especially, liked to come, and he would hang out a lot. And he just loved to come over there and visit. And, even though no children might have been around, And then when we go to Cathedral for Mass, and when Nick was born, then he was baptized there. And
so Grandma was there.
Sure, Grandma was there, and I had him baptized there because she couldn't attend your baptism or Molly's or Emily's because that was in Kansas City.
Too far for her to
she
travel.
she didn't come to that. So I thought, well, I should have Nick baptized in Sioux City so that she can be there, and his dad's family, your dad's family, could be there. So that was really nice. And my parents came down for that too, that from North Dakota. So that was.
So your parents met his parents or his mom?
Yeah, they had. I think that's the second time they had met them. I don't remember the first time, but I do know. I think that was
the wedding, probably.
Oh, the wedding, yeah, when we got married in 1969, and the air conditioner failed, and it was the end of May, but Wichita was hot, and it said the temperature caused the candles in the reception to melt all the way down to the table. And some people left, but one of our friends named Jim Kelly's father, who was there, told me it was the best party he had ever been to. He loved it. And I had a little band that my dad had hired for me. And the band members were the parents and relatives of one of my roommates in college at Mount St. Scholastica, and then, so, it's just all kind of fell together. And then eventually we moved to Saudi Arabia and then came back, and Dad left again. And so, so life goes on,
Well,
We had many adventures actually.
Yeah, thank you
with
for
cousins and-
sharing the memories of Justine and the Schuetz family.